Oh, my goodness. Hello and welcome to the Glenn Beck program. We've got a lot to do today. I'm going to show you some things from this week from a couple of hearings that I cheered. We are actually starting to find a spine in this country. And that is so great. So great. However, we have to do more than cheer and yell at people. And when I say yell at people, I'm going to play some things where it was insane. Well, let me start here. Let me just start with this because you'll understand how good it feels. Let's go to cut 8 with Senator Hawley talking to the person that is going to be our national archivist. Now, remember, the National Archives should just be somebody collecting all of the stuff and preserving it, okay? I don't want a political ideologue. I want somebody that nobody even cares to meet, okay? It's like, yeah, you're going to have to meet the archivist just to, get that paper, and they're so boring. But just tolerate it because the stuff in the vault is really cool, okay? That's who I want. But that's not who we're getting. Remember, the National Archives are now saying, this document here is very triggering. Yes, if you're King George III, it shouldn't be triggering to you now. But I don't know, the National Archives, it's kind of dicey. So who do we have? We have somebody who is a lefty. And on the second hearing in the Senate, she was kind of caught in a little trap because on her first one, they had some tweets from her that were like, you know who I just hate? All Republicans. I mean, just crazy stuff that she tweeted out. And so she made her Twitter feed private the day before she went to the hearing. And they only had a couple of her tweets, and they were going to use them, but they only had a couple of them that they had printed off because she left it all open. And the night before, she closes it down, so they don't have everything. So Hawley asks her, can you tell me what's on your tweets? I mean, you closed it down. We have 2 of them here. What's on your tweets? And she was under oath. Well, she was back. And I would just like to say, Senator Hawley, I mean, whatever you need. I mean, if you need my wife to make you some lasagna, bring it over. I'll personally put it on the fork and feed it to you if that's what makes you happy. This exchange made me very happy.
Dr. Shogan, when you were here last year, a number of senators asked you, including me, a series of questions about articles you'd written, public statements you had made on social media that were, I have to say, pretty grossly partisan, and I thought offensive, and you and I went back and forth about it. After that, a number of us asked you questions for the record relating to these statements. I want to follow up on one of them. I, in particular, asked you to give us a full accounting of the public posts that you had made on Twitter. You had locked your Twitter account before you came before this committee. It had previously been public. I asked you to provide the public posts that had previously been available on Twitter because the ones that we have were pretty disturbing. You responded as follows, and I quote, "My personal Twitter account is comprised of posts about my mystery novels, events at the White House Historical Association, Pittsburgh sports teams, travels, and my dog." Well, let's talk a little bit about your Twitter posts then that I was asking you about. On February 18th, 2022, you posted on Twitter bemoaning the dropping of mask requirements for children, including those under the age of 5. Do you remember that post?
No, Senator. Those tweets were in my personal capacity.
No. I asked you, would you give all public posts that you had made on Twitter? You said no, effectively, and you said that your Twitter posts consisted of mystery novels, events at the White House Historical Association, Pittsburgh sports teams, travels, and my dog. And you just told me now under oath that you stood by that. So now let's talk about your Twitter posts. On February 18th, 2022, you posted bemoaning the fact that mask requirements for children under the age of 5, one of whom I happen to have, by the way, had been dropped. Is that a post about your dog or sports teams?
My social media is in my personal capacity,
Answer
Senator.
my question, please, because you've testified under oath that you only posted about your dog and sports teams and novels, and you also said you wouldn't give this committee any of your public posts. So, is your post on February 18th, 2022, bemoaning the lifting of mask requirements for children under the age of 5, who I might just ask, all of the data has said is extremely harmful to children, these mask requirements? We'll leave that aside for now. Is that a post about your dog or sports teams? Yes or no?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
Yes or no, Ms. Shogan? You are under oath before this committee, and I have to say, you have placed this issue squarely in record by repeatedly refusing to answer. Yes or no?
I love you.
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
So you're not answering my question. Let's talk about another post. 26th of May, 2022, you talk about an assault weapons ban, retweet a post, ban assault weapons now. Say you agree with this idea that you have to be a certain age to buy so-called assault weapons in America. Is that a post about sports teams or your dog or mystery novels?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
I have to say, I have been here for 4 years in the Senate. I have never seen a witness stonewall like this before. Never. And I've seen a lot. This is extraordinary. I mean, this is unbelievable. And you want to be the Archivist of the United States. You lied to us under oath. You lied to us in your QFRs. You just lied to me a second ago under oath. And now you're sitting here stonewalling, not answering questions about public posts that you've made. Dr. Shogan, I'm going to ask you again, will you give to this committee your public posts on Twitter? Will you make them available to this committee?
My social media is in my personal capacity.
Mr. Chairman, I have to tell you, this is the most extraordinary thing I have seen in my brief time in the Senate. I have never seen a witness blatantly lie under oath like Dr. Shogan has just done to this committee, stonewalled this committee, and just repeatedly refused to answer my questions about her own posts that are in public. For these reasons, I will oppose your nomination, and I strongly, strongly urge this committee to take action on this and force this witness to own up to the fact that she is misleading us right now before our eyes, Mr. Chairman.
I mean, don't you love him? Now, here's the thing I want to point out. That was a shortened version. The long version is like 8 minutes, and it is so satisfying. It is so satisfying. He's the first person that I have heard. I shouldn't say that. This has been a good week for this kind of stuff. That are actually holding people's feet to the fire. Now, it makes no difference if it's all just words. And let me tell you why. There is a great McIntyre Opinion piece on the Blaze today. Media acceptance of the lab leak theory is the turning of the COVID ratchet. This is the most important opinion piece that I have read on why the COVID leak is coming out and what does it all mean. He writes, if you thought this monumental collapse of credibility, this sudden implosion of certainty of the science would give the media moments hesitation, you were sadly mistaken. The progressive chattering class spent their days forcing the American public to pretend that men could become women at cultural gunpoint. Science was never the lodestone of truth. They are not undergoing some sort of dramatic crisis here. While some would expect a little more coordination between the regime and its media arm to create a smoother narrative transition, this trailing dialectic serves its own purpose. Our ruling elite secure power through constant invocation of the state of exception. In theory, we live in a democracy where the power of the government is constrained through the structure of the Constitution and the will of the people. In practice, however, both limiting factors can be removed in the case of an emergency. A cunning leader knows that power, once granted, is rarely returned, and it is very difficult for the public to hold anyone accountable after the fact. When an emergency presents the opportunity to achieve power under the state of exception, it is always best to manufacture the narrative to secure that power as quickly as possible, and then make the adjustments later after the power is firmly in hand. The pandemic allowed for the creation of an indefinite state of exception, during which the regime could lock down its political opponents, unleash its own supporters to punish those who oppose them. Churches, gyms were shuttered, abortion clinics, Walmarts were deemed essential. Leftist corporate allies like Amazon acquired near monopoly on commerce, while their local retail competition was driven into bankruptcy. Trump supporters were forced to attend the funerals of their loved ones on Zoom, while Joe Biden voters drank champagne in the streets to celebrate his election. Politics, after all, is about rewarding your friends and punishing your enemies. He goes on to Trump and The View, et cetera, et cetera. But what we are now observing is the process by which our ruling elite consolidate the power they gained while reconciling their narrative to something that more closely resembles reality. Bit by bit, the powers have had to admit the truth behind most of the conspiracy theories that they so violently attacked. This slow drip of truth is not some admission of failure or culpability. It is instead designed to turn the political ratchet. Conservatives and COVID skeptics get to feel vindicated. We have a moment of, aha, I told you so. Yet nothing changes. The power isn't taken back. No one serves a punishment for the crime. We must understand that what Hawley just did there is so satisfying. What Ted Cruz and Hawley did this week to Merrick Garland is just, it was almost, you could rate that as a porn.
We should go through that at some point.
It was so good. It was so good.
Hauk incident.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll play this. We'll play a cut if you haven't heard it yet. But it was so good. But it means nothing without teeth. They try. Who was it? I want to say it was Biggs. Was it the Biggs amendment that was trying to go after Mayorkas? And all of the Republicans have all said, this is out of control. This is crazy. Well, there are two bills to impeach him in a Republican House, and they are a long way from getting anybody to sign on. There's like 41 sponsors. That's it. Wait, excuse me? Someone must pay the price for what is happening in our society, or nothing changes. You can feel vindicated, you can feel good, you can yell at people, but it doesn't change anything. That woman should not be as the archivist for multiple reasons, but she should pay some price for lying under oath. They're all doing it. If they don't punish those people, why would you care? Why would you care? What meaning does your testimony even have?